Hello everyone, what's up? It's me again, Junkmaster3, and what do you know, it's time for yet another horror review video. And for today's film, I'm going to make a review of is the film called Fatal Exam, which was part of that like homegrown horrors volume 1 put out by Vinegar Syndrome. The other films included in that box set were, I believe, a film called Winter Beast and Beyond Dream Store, I believe. I have seen Winter Beast before, and I think it's an alright type of film. But now for this film, I'm going to talk about this one. This one is basically about a group of students that get like they kind of get like a weird assignment from their teacher or like their professor or whatever to like investigate this old house, which was supposed to be like cursed in some way. Like they just suspect that there's some ghosts in there because there were murders that had taken place in there before. But there was some weird guy that apparently murdered his entire family basically. So they go there to investigate, and like the teacher is like very specific, like, oh, I need at least 6 persons or something in order to this project to happen basically. Otherwise, they'll just cancel the project or whatever. So of course, there's I think there's immediately there's two of them that are like, oh, I want to do that, and the rest just kind of show up every time now and then. So yeah. So that's, I mean, there's not really too much else to talk about because there's some like twists and turns like the longer into the film you get. But of course, there's like troubles in there, and like you don't really know if you can trust everybody and whatnot. So I'm not gonna spoil anything else than that. But I'm just gonna warn you about this, that there might be. I'm not gonna say that there is gonna be spoilers, but there might be somewhat of a spoiler, like spoilers from this one. I usually try to keep my reviews spoiler free, but in this case I just need to tell you about this, well, like the film in general, eventually. But yeah, but then again, I'm gonna try to leave it at that for the storyline. So the storyline is very simple. Now I'm going to talk to you about the positive things that I can say about this film. I thought some of the cinematography was pretty good. Some of the music, I'm not saying all the music because the majority of music was pretty like lackluster in my personal opinion, but it's somewhat okay. Um, and You can actually see what's going on. That's a positive thing because that's something that I usually talk about with friends. That one of the when people ask me like which is the worst film you've ever seen, and I always say Hip Hop Locos because you can't even see what's going on in that film. That's a 1 out of 10. Now, this one is such a bad and boring film. Uh, I mean, what I just said is actually also only the positive things about this film. The lighting is good, some of the camera work is good, you can see what's going on. Uh, Small parts of the soundtrack or like score or whatever is acceptable at best, but that's it for positives. And usually when I say that, I usually get like somewhat of a little higher rating because that's a thing when it comes to me when with films, that I usually try to really find the positive things, even though the film might be really really bad. I always try to find something good out of the project. But in this case, this movie just pissed me off so much that I just despised it. And apparently, this was a film that had lots and lots of problems, like production issues, because apparently most of the film was completed in 1985, but it was delayed until 1990 when it was fully completed because of some production like problems or like financing or something like that. Um, and I must say, like the overall like weird dubbing, I can sort of say that it's sort of like dubbing. It's just absolutely horrendous, and most of the characters are just so forgettable and so boring, and they speak in such a monotone type of voice as well. They don't really feel like they're very enthusiastic about anything that's going on. I mean, if I would be like one of these guys, like, oh, what should we do next? Should we go upstairs? Should we do that? Like, it's just like they have no feeling to it. It's like, okay, now we need to go to this room, investigate. What should we do next? I mean, they sound like robots, like being like put into this film. They are absolutely horrendous, and that just really pissed me off. And when we can speak about, I mean, other negative things about this film is I mean, so many of the sequences are just so padded out. There's like a scene when some guy like just slowly walks up the stairs and then goes back down again, and it's like, and along with that really annoying, boring soundtrack, you just really try. I mean, it really feels like this film really tried to put me down to sleep, because that's how boring and irritating this film is, because there's so many shots that just goes on forever, and it's just so much padding and so boring. I mean, this film goes on for almost like 2 hours. 2 hours, can you imagine that? I recently watched another film which was really terrible called Dead North, I believe, which was actually a shot on video film. I'm not really sure if this is shot on video. I think this is actually shot on film. But that shot on video film was really, really terrible, and I really despised it. But at least it had such a stupid. I mean, it was so stupid. It was kind of interesting in a certain way. That's the reason why I gave it 2 out of 10. That particular film. Other than that, that's a film that is just absolutely horrendous. This film really pissed me off, and that's the reason why I give this one a 1 out of 10. This should have stayed buried. They shouldn't have bothered, because I don't even think this would have worked as a short film. That's how boring this film really is. And once things start to get going towards the end, you don't really care about anything, because all of the characters are so lifeless and so boring, and most of their dialogue is just so absolutely. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so terrible. And I don't really know what they were thinking when they made this film. And it doesn't really help that most of the film takes place inside of this house. So you get lots and lots of talking and lots of like walking back and forth, like in this house. And yeah, none of the characters are likable. None of them are memorable. I mean, I would probably forget about this film in a month or so. Yeah, this film is absolutely atrocious. Usually, like I said before, I try to find something positives out of the film, but I've already told you what things that were positive. But just because it was so long and so boring, that's the reason why I gave it 1 out of 10. It's just, I mean, this is really a chore to get through. I can only imagine like people like sitting like on a Friday night, like, oh, let's watch an old school horror film that we've never seen before, and they put this in the player, and you're like, oh, I feel really bad for this now. I mean, the cover art doesn't really do the film justice at all, because the cover art is absolutely amazing. Don't let yourself get fooled by that. If you have picked up the that particular box set that I'm referring to, which this one was included, watch the other two films. I'm not seen Beyond Dream's Door, I believe, yet, so can't really say anything about that. But Winter Beast or Snow Beast or whatever it was called, that was actually somewhat entertaining. But this one, I mean, if you want to watch a film with your friends, give this one a skip, and yeah, just give this a skip. I mean, period, because this is just such a terrible film. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. So yeah, maybe some other people really like this film, but I don't really understand why, because it's just so padded out for some weird reason. I don't really understand why. So yeah, Fatal Exam. If you want to watch another film with a similar title, watch Final Exam instead. That's actually a pretty fun slasher film, which is kind of stupid, but it still has that specific charm to it, and it doesn't run for like 2 hours, so that's another thing. Yeah, that's it for the review. Not really sure what the next video is going to be about. Maybe a not really sure. Maybe a yeah, top 5 the month, of course, which I should have done maybe before this video, but whatever. Hope you enjoyed this particular video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.